Hey, you're listening to The Happiness Agenda. I'm Steve Sapato, your host, and we talk about things that will help you make your life better. I hope today you're going to be excited because I have Ashley. A- sure, I know who I have on today. I have Angela Christian and on, and she's going to really help you change your life if that's what you want to do. Is that what you want to do? Is change your life, make it better, create more success, happiness, wealth, all that good stuff? Why should I tell you? I got the expert right here. Angela, you there?
Yes, I'm here, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, great. My pleasure. Hey, Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you might as well tell everybody else and we'll figure it all out together. How's that?
Sure, sounds good. I am a manifestation expert and coach. I haven't always been. I actually worked in the Silicon Valley finance world for over a decade, had a very strong accounting and finance background. However, I had some health issues that led me into alternative forms of healing. So I started kind of training on the side with shamans and mystical
Oh,
teachers. And
wow.
over the last 7 years, I've been doing it kind of just as my own healing experience. But then I've learned so much that now I'm doing this full time. I do CFO consultant work, but this is really my focus.
Cool. And can I ask where you live?
Sure. So I live right outside of San Francisco, about an hour north.
And I'm gonna say something really tacky here, but when you started talking about working with the shamans and working with the healers, I went, you didn't have those in Illinois, so so you go, has to be California, right? But the
Yeah.
cool thing is when you open yourself up to alternatives, that's the one thing I've been really preaching the last 3 years when all this stuff has been happening, is that first of all, people argue, hate, anger, all that stuff, the pain that they show. But the other part then is the opposite of that. And that's, you've come from two opposite points of view, from hardcore into this other experience. And it's just a matter of being open when the healing that the doctors say should work doesn't work, then you have to look someplace else, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. In 2015, I had a near death experience. My two young daughters were very sick. We didn't know what was going on. And it ended up being severe toxic mold in our house.
Oh, wow.
Behind, yeah, it was, I mean, hidden very well. We couldn't see it at first, but we all started getting really sick. And traditional physicians just aren't trained in dealing with toxic mold. So I started seeking out alternative forms of healing, and that just led me down this path that, I was meant to be on. So absolutely.
It's interesting that we are now making things now. We always say we're a disposable society because now it used to be you had a TV forever and then they replaced the plugs and they replaced the tubes and all that other stuff. Now if they go, you just go throw them away, get a new TV, and that's how we started making stuff for a throwaway society, right? And then we've made houses so good, and I mean since the 40s and 50s, because that's where the mold really started. But since the 40s and 50s, we've made houses so good that the air doesn't just blow through them anymore. And we capture all that stuff inside. And like I say, we don't know it's there. No one tells you that. How did you discover that it was that? Can I ask?
So I kept seeing this weird stuff toward the end coming up through the ground. And I ended up finding out that the owners actually knew about the issue. I was renting, and they kept trying to tell me every time, the maintenance guy, oh, it's nothing. The house is just settling. And one day I knew nothing about mold, but I just had a thought pop into my head, like toxic mold. And I went to my doctor who, he was pretty progressive doctor in Marin. He'd written a bunch of health books. And I said, could this be mold? And he said, you know what? It absolutely could. And he connected me with a physician in his office who was a mold specialist. And so then I had some inspectors come out, and they said the levels in the air, the mycotoxins, were higher than Hurricane Katrina houses.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Yeah.
And did you own this house or you were renting it? I think you just said the landlords, right? So you were
Yeah.
renting. So it wasn't a horrible thing to pick up and move on, but still, all your furniture, all your clothes, everything had to be almost changed, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the inspectors told us, like, you need to just leave with the clothes on your back, leave everything behind, go to Target, get new clothes, and just say goodbye to everything.
Wow. It's like you had a fire, you know. I mean, that's crazy that it gets into everything like that. But then you became a natural. Tell me, you're a what now? What's your title?
Well, so I am manifestation coach, but I almost don't love saying manifestation because it's so fluffy. Like there's so many fluffy teachers out there. Yeah, exactly. So basically what I do, I don't know if you've heard of Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton.
Nope.
They focus really on the subconscious programming that we had as children and the beliefs that that created. And then I help people wherever you're struggling in life. It just means that there's a block in that area from childhood. There was something you saw or you were around. You know, like parents used to say all the time, money doesn't grow on trees, or money's the root of all evil, you know? And so if you have a money block, most likely there were words like that being used. And so it's finding that block, and then I help them shift it and then create new programs. And I also teach the energy work as well that I've learned, you know, from shamans and my mystical teachers. And then I also attended a school in Marin that was, you know, they taught us how to work with energy and how to heal. So I kind of combine all of that, and I walk people through my program. So that's how I work.
You know,
I'm looking for a different word than manifestation, but yeah.
Well, you know, and I hope somebody listening will also offer different, you know, ideas, because we all come up with ideas of what words she might use rather than manifestation.
Yeah.
But I've been doing, again, I'm a lot older than you, but I mean, I've been doing stuff like that for a long time, because we do come with ingrained knowledge, is what I call it. And people say, well, that doesn't affect me. Like I was for a long time, decades, I was like, well, you know, TV is negative and all of them. And they went, that stuff doesn't affect me. I went, well, you have it playing in the background all the time. They go, but that stuff doesn't affect me. And then I'll try and come up with a like a TV, you know, like Hershey's makes the very best. And I go, how does that end? And the people will say chocolate. I go, okay, so you memorize that on purpose? And they were like, well, no, that's just something you learn. I go, okay. And then you try and come up with another phrase from another TV. Usually they're ads, you know. And when you come up with, I used to have a list of them that I would say, okay, what about this? And they go, well, that ends like this. I go, okay, but those things don't affect you, you know, because they're right here in our heads. They've been so ingrained in our heads that we remember ads, and people go, well, everybody remembers ads. Well, it's not just the ads, is it, Angela? It's all the stuff that they've put into our head, that we've put into our head. And so when we allow that to happen, the world is not as big as we want it to be, because we close it off. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that these subconscious programs that we picked up, usually from ages 0 to 7, when we were in a brainwave called theta, your brain is literally like a computer program picking up all of these things as factual, even when they're not. That subconscious mind, it actually was formed when we were in our mother's womb. So it started picking up stuff during the 3rd trimester of our mother's pregnancy. And then our conscious mind, the thoughts we hear, didn't form until much later. And the issue is that our subconscious, with all of those programs, rules 95% of our life. So people, you know, if you ask someone, do you want $1 million? Consciously, they're going to probably say yes. But if they have a subconscious program where their parents said, you know, rich people are evil, even if they get that money, they're going to lose it. They're going to sabotage it. That's why so many people who win the lottery, if they're in poverty, they go right back to poverty, because there's like a baseline unless you upgrade it.
That's right. And it is. It's so, I tell people all the time, you have to be willing to unlearn as much as you're willing to learn. And that's, for most of us, I don't get that, you know, but that's like, don't. Negatives. Our mind does not perceive negatives. When you say you don't eat that, you're naturally going to eat that. Or if I go on a diet and I'll say, you know what, I can't have ice cream. What do I crave all the time? Ice cream. I'll say, but I can't have ice cream. Your mind doesn't comprehend can't, won't, don't, and not. So we automatically hear the other side. It's also true for what you tell your children, like you say, 0 to 7. How many times do you tell your children 0 to 7 years of age, don't eat that, don't do that, get away from there, you can't do that, don't climb on that, right? And so we're boom, right? Our little program goes, oh, okay, I can't. Whereas, and I'm trying to think, it's been decades now, but there was, I'll say, a Japanese person, expert, who played all the symphonies, let's say, for their children on piano, right? And before the kids were 3 years old, they could play these concertos or whatever they might be called on piano, because they not only had been programmed by hearing it in their crib all the time, but they'd also been told by their parents, you can do this. You can play that if you want to. You know, you have the ability to play that. Whereas most of us are like, hey, get away, shut up, don't do that. You know, we have not been taught how to parent.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
What's the answer? So what's the answer to our world today, Angela? What can you do to help most of us be more successful?
Yeah, so the first step is being aware of these programs. And so that's what I walk people through. I have them do these guided meditations where we go back and look at their childhood and then figure out where the blocks are, which is usually wherever you're struggling the most. And I find usually it's either in relationships or with money. Those are like the biggest blocks. So first, it's just the understanding and awareness. Then I teach them programs to start rebuilding those unhelpful beliefs. So we can rebuild new programs by habit, which that takes a little bit longer, but that's basically how we learned all programs after age 7, like tying our shoe or riding a bike. And then also by something called super learning, which is using NLP or hypnosis or tapping, the EFT work. So I basically help them do that. And then we work on their energy. So I help them learn some energy techniques to clear out the toxic energy, to protect their energy, because there's so much coming at us all day long. And so that's a really big piece of it. And then I teach them as well how to use their, have you heard of a reticular activating system? Your RAS? Yeah.
Go ahead and explain that.
Yeah. So it's a bundle of nerves, and it basically filters everything. So there's a few things that always get through, which are, you know, if your name is called in a crowded place, you'll turn, or if there's like danger, you'll notice, like if parents are at a big carnival and there's people fighting, the parents will hear that because it's their, you know, RAS telling them to be careful. But the one piece that we can actually control is what we deem as important. So whatever we decide is important, that will start filtering and actually helping us. It's there to help us, like a superpower. That's what I call it in my courses, because if you create a habit every day where you're writing that goal out, or you're speaking affirmations about it, pretty soon your RAS will catch on that that's important to you. And it'll start filtering things and opportunities and people to you that you otherwise wouldn't see.
You know, and as you said that reminded me of something that somebody told me. They said, like it's called the reticular, what's it called again?
Reticular activating system.
Reticular activating system. And they said, and the way I heard it was much simpler for me, which was, Steve, if you buy a blue Buick, guess what you're going to start seeing a lot more of? Blue Buicks. And you know, when you do, you go, hey, wait a minute, why are there so many cars like mine on the road? And they've always been there, but they weren't important to you till you bought one, right? And so here's what I'm going to ask the listeners today. Would you like to be happier, healthier, have better relationships, make more money, and be more successful? If the answer to that is yes, Angela can help you do that. So Angela, how do they get in touch with you if they just clicked on that?
Sure. So they can go to my website, angelamariechristian.com. I have free resources on there. And then I also have my course and my coaching programs. Or they can find me on Instagram at Angela Marie Christian. I'm pretty active on there as well. Okay.
Now I'm going to qualify, because I'm a nutball for making sure, because some people will see this and they'll know how to spell your name, but some people will hear it in the podcast. So Angela is A-N-G-E-L-A, A-N-G-E-L-A, just like Angela should be spelled. But the middle name was what?
Marie, M-A-R-I-E.
Okay. And then Christian is Christian. And the reason I qualify is because a lot of times we hear things. So I heard Angela Murray Christian, Murray or something like that, right? But it's Angela Marie Christian.com. So I would highly recommend that you reach out and at least touch base with her. I'll bet you if you have a conversation with her, your brain will just go wild. I mean, it's probably asleep now and you don't even know it. And when you start to open up all of these wonderful synopses, then your mind starts to go, hey, wait a minute. Does that mean you can make more money? Yes. Does that mean I can have more success? Yes. Does that mean I can be happier? Yes. And that's what I brought Angela on to the happiness agenda for, is because she has the ability to train us to learn more so that we can have whatever our heart desires. Right, Angela?
Yep, absolutely.
And what's been holding us back? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's that we don't understand. We hear these conscious thoughts. We think that's what's in control, but it's not. It's actually the 95% that's in control that we're not aware of. It's the subconscious. And so
people will say that's not true. I can make my own decisions. I don't have to, learn that stuff to know what I can decide, right? How do you beat that down?
Yeah. So what I say is, okay, so we all have kind of a baseline when it comes to finances or relationships or health, and we pretty much stay there. So if in your mind you think, okay, I'm valued at making $60,000 a year, then even if you get a raise, you'll end up spending more and you'll still average out at that 60,000. Or if you have a year with less, then something will happen to bring you back to that baseline. But it's really interesting once you start paying attention to that. It's just, you have to kind of start being aware and watching the patterns and looking back and thinking, okay, how did my parents, were they in debt? Did they rack up their credit cards? And then kind of seeing how that plays into your life.
And that's when you said that, there was a study or something. It was like 15, 20 years ago where somebody put an ad in the New York Times, let's say, I've forgotten what it was. They put an ad into the New York Times and listed all the qualifications and said, hey, job's $65,000. And they got like 200 people to apply for it. They put the same ad in, right, with the exact same description and put it at $250,000 salary and got like 4 people to apply for it. Yeah, see, because we'd programmed our mind that I'm only worth this much, regardless of the qualifications. There must be something to that $250,000 job that I can't do. Isn't that what we do? That's what that's all about, isn't it? I limit myself, but I don't know why I limit myself.
Yep. And a book that really helped me through the money stuff is called A Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
Oh, yeah, T. Harv Eker. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. He's hilarious. And so he actually goes through and tells you, he uses big contrasts, but he says, like, here's how poor people think, here's how rich people think, makes it big contrast to make a point. But he teaches you how to start changing the way you think about money or talk about money. And you can really apply those methods to any area of your life. So that's a really great book that I base a lot of my work on. And then I also forgot to mention these techniques. So I use something called the Silva method. I don't know if you've heard of that, Jose Silva. And then Burt Goldman, I've gone through training with him on quantum jumping, which can be really out there for people. But I tell them, if it sounds a little too out there, then you can just think of it like creative visualization. So I kind of combine all of these things I've learned, and I have a unique way of teaching and building upon all of these techniques.
It is fascinating, though, to me. It's like, I have to admit, I think I'm one of the more forward thinkers of all the people I know. And people will say, Steve, that's just stupid. Or Steve, why would nobody can do that? Or that's not true. And I go, okay, because I've been speaking so long. T. Harv Eker and I were on stages together, 40 years ago. And so, I mean, yeah. And so those kind of people really help you change your life because you hear their opinion, you give your opinion. And it's all about, what are you open to?
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to change your life? And that's what, matter of fact, I'm putting together a program right now. I've been working about a week on it. Probably got another 3 or 4 weeks to go. You know how that goes, where you think, oh, I'll just put this in. And then it turns out to be a page or 2 pages. And then you say, I'll just put this in there. And that turns out to be 2 chapters. I mean, just nutso how much stuff you have in your head. But
Right.
it's a matter of, most of the time, we don't know what we don't know, and that should scare everybody. Have you ever had somebody say, don't think of a pink elephant? Well, what did you just think of? A pink elephant, right? And
Yeah.
unless you're smart enough to go, I thought of the pink elephant and then I changed it to a flamingo or something like that. But we don't understand, and therefore we sublimate what we think we get. And I love it. The arguments that they have on Facebook, I call them red herrings a lot of time, because they'll put something in and it's way over here when they really meant to talk about this. And once they get you distracted, boy, people are distracted. So, but it is, when we get a chance to work with people like Angela, it will change your life. And how many people want to change their life? I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you're happy with where you are now and you just want to join the happiness agenda because you got 2 attractive people who are just talking to you, right, Angela?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. But it's more likely that you want to change your life. And so, Angela, what other words of wisdom do you have for us over here in the next 7 or 8 minutes that we can really start to pick on, or that we might want to reach out and ask you more about?
Sure. So one thing I would say is, if you are thinking, if you have any resistance to this, our ego mind can get triggered, because the whole purpose of it is to keep us safe. It's to keep us in survival. It's not made to make us thrive. So really understanding, if you start to feel uncomfortable, it's going to act up. And so just know that, you can push through that feeling. But if you're feeling uncomfortable, then you're probably doing something that's going to improve your life. So that's one thing that I would recommend. And then number 2 is, yes, having an open mind, because some of these techniques that I teach, to some people, they might seem a little out there at first.
When she said out there, she meant wacko. That's what she meant.
Yeah. or like magic or something. But I've used them in my own life. And then, they've actually been around for a really long time. These are ancient teachings that I use. And it's just, that's again, the ego, like not wanting to be something bigger than you are. So fear is the most debilitating thing for your life. If you really want to be happy and get to that level of feeling like you're living in bliss, you have to push through those uncomfortable feelings and take a chance. So,
what's interesting is she said something there that triggers my brain. It doesn't take much to trigger my brain, in case you folks haven't noticed. But think about this. The techniques and things that she's promoting now were around long before modern medicine. We put so much faith in modern medicine, but long before that ever happened, the shaman and the you name them were out there teaching, training, healing people. And it's funny how, if you talk martial arts, everybody goes, oh, let's go back to martial arts, where those guys could do this and they were ninjas and they were this. But then we go into modern society and we go, wait, you want me to meditate? You want me to do this? And you're like, yeah, we do, because it works, and it's worked for centuries, right?
Exactly. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And the shamans that I've trained with, they have gone, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Alberto Villoldo.
No.
So he used to be actually an anthropologist, and he was sent down to the rainforest to find some drug or something. They sent him down there to say, can you find something to cure cancer? When he went down there and met with all the medicine men and women, there was no cancer. There was no dementia. There were none of these diseases that we had.
In those tribes or in America?
In those tribes. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so he actually ended up staying there and just training with them for years and years, because he knew there was something there. So it's pretty interesting. But these people, not everybody hears about, these people and all of the work they've done since long before Western medicine.
Yeah. Well, there was again, a long time ago, Sean Connery did a movie called The Medicine Man. I don't know if you saw it. Phenomenal movie, because what it was about was Sean Connery was down in the jungles, and this other lady went down to visit him because he wasn't getting the results they said they wanted. So she went down to go, whip him in shape or send him home type thing. And he was like, I had it once and I don't have it again. It was a cure for cancer. And it's a phenomenal movie, but it was why and how all these plants that we're destroying on a daily basis were creating medicines and things that we need to cure our society. And it's phenomenal how we still to this day don't understand we don't understand anything. I mean, we really don't. We're kind of peeking at the dark side and we're trying to find our way. And that's what you really are doing. Like you said, you were sick. By the way, how are your girls? Are they good now?
Oh yeah, we're good now. It took us many years to heal, but yeah, I mean, I know this is my purpose, and to help others kind of find this path and realize, you don't have to be stuck in your 9-to-5 job being miserable. There's, so much that you're here to do. So that's really my passion.
That's it. Like I said, I teach excellent conversationalist. If you want to be an excellent conversationalist, come take courses from me, because learning how to be a presenter, be a speaker, everything we do requires you to, like here, speak on a Zoom or a StreamYard, a podcast, so that we can get our messages out. And if you're not succinct at getting your message out, it'll flounder. But it's one of those deals where when you watch how people change their lives, you say we're trapped. I taught college for 7 years, a junior college back in Bettendorf, Iowa. And it was one of those deals where I remember one time I said to the kids, like, where do you want to go when you graduate? What do you want to be? And they said, anywhere but here in the Quad Cities. And I was like, why? And they go, oh, Quad Cities is boring and terrible. And I'm like, okay. I said, and they said, I don't want to be stuck like my parents. And I would hear that quite often. And I went, why are your parents stuck? And they went, well, because they can't quit their jobs. I went, why not? And they went, well, because they got retirement and Social Security, and they get all of this, and they got whatever tenure. And I'm like, well, see, I never relate to that. I've had 36 different full-time jobs in my life, because when I get bored, I move on. It's like, hey, this is boring now. I got to go. Have a great day. And I've never starved to death, and I've never been without. I mean, I've been on the verge. You don't always make the right choices. But it is when people start to think about what opportunities are available, the things that hold you back, the thing is fear. Angela said it earlier, fear. She can help you get over your fear. She can help you discover what's been holding you back. And you say, nothing's holding me back, Steve. Well, something is, if you're not at your optimum life. I mean, if you would like to be if you're making $65,000, you want to be making $100,000, there's something that's holding you back. Yeah. If you want to be a doctor and you're not going to try and become a doctor, there's something holding you back. Maybe it's just your relatives going, you can't do that. But yeah. Dr. Angela will certainly, I called you doctor, I don't know if you're a doctor or not. Angela will certainly help you get there. And that's vital. Angela, tell them again how they get in touch with you.
Yes, so you can go to my website, which is www.angela Christian.com, or you can find me on Instagram at Angela Marie Christian, Facebook, same, Angela Marie Christian.
Cool. And I would highly recommend, as we're wrapping up here, matter of fact, this time has gone very fast. Thank you for a great interview. But reaching out, you never know when one idea, just one idea, you're just going to change your life. And I highly recommend that you reach out to Angela and see if she has that one idea. So, Angela, one last final word of wisdom for the people.
Yes, I would just say, listen to your heart. And if you're not happy, you have the power to change your life and bring in whatever you desire.
Oh, I love that. So if there's more to your life that you want, then now is the time to start reaching out to get it. No better time. We're out of that pandemic thingy. Everybody's ready to break free. We have new ideas, new thoughts, new opportunities. And I highly recommend that you take advantage of them by learning how to take advantage of them. Angela, I sure appreciate you being on the show today. You can reach me at steve@stevesapato.com. Of course, this is the Happiness Agenda. Remember to subscribe. Click the button and subscribe to the podcast. We have wonderful guests on who will help you change your life. Thank you again, Angela.
Thank you.
Yeah.